Hello everyone, it's time for another live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is your look at the astrology for November 17th through 23rd, 2025. If you are checking your calendar because you're like, wait a second, it's not Monday. I know it's not Monday. Yesterday was my birthday, and I prefer to spend it relaxing instead of doing this, even though I love you all. But I thought, well, let's do it on Tuesday, and our Tuesday club will become Wednesday, and we'll be able to catch up on some pretty interesting astrology this week. So, namely, we have a Scorpio new moon. This will be a Scorpio new moon on the 20th of November. For most of the world, it's the 20th of November if you are West Coast. United States, or even out to Hawaii, it will be the 19th. So as I record this Tuesday, November 18th, we are coming to the end of a lunar cycle. And this is a lunar cycle that I think the new moon was October 21st. So we have come full circle since that new moon on October 21st. And it means that we are in a period for the next, I guess at this point till tomorrow, we are in a period of wrapping things up, coming to the end of a cycle, reflecting, relaxing, but also, with our, the sun is still in Scorpio, with our Scorpio ears, listening and feeling and intuiting for what's the next cycle to come. I've said this many times already. Astrology is just time. It's the study of time, but it's to see how time builds itself and how we are situated or how we live within that structure of time. Every 4 weeks, we have a new moon. That new moon creates a new structure for us to inhabit, and that new moon plays off of previous new moons, previous lunar months, but more specifically, it is a new moon that is nestled within a larger structure, the 6 months in time, and that is that period that takes us from one solar eclipse to another. So in the case of the solar eclipse of September 21st, I think that's right. Sorry, my brain's still in birthday mode. September 21st, all the way to the solar eclipse of February 17th of 2026. So that's the period of time that we're in. And why is this new moon interesting? Because it's a new moon that will be pretty closely opposite Uranus and Taurus. So before I get too far, I know, again, I'm recording this a day late, but for those that watch live, do say hello. Or if you're watching on the replay, say hello. For those that don't know who I am, my name is Katie Sweetman, and I'm an astrologer and psychic medium located here in the rolling hills of Central Maryland. And every week we gather live, except for yesterday, to look at the astrology. And you hear me say it every week. The astrology is 50%, and you are the other 50%. Something to keep in mind as we navigate the Scorpio new moon and the 4 weeks that come after it. This is something that I even think that I spoke about in the introduction to Scorpio season a few weeks ago. The zodiac, we don't always think of the zodiac this way because we often think of the zodiac in terms of personalities and like I'm a Scorpio, that means that I'm this and I'm not compatible with these signs, but that's a very surface way of interacting with the zodiac, because more powerfully and taken as a whole, the zodiac is a ladder. It's a ladder for us to climb, that we can make that climb in a year. So from the start of the zodiac calendar, Aries, the sun goes into Aries typically around the 19th, 20th, or 21st of March, all the way full circle, we get back to March. It's a different calendar than our own, calendar. The year starts for us January 1st, but in astrology, the year starts when the sun goes into Aries, at least in tropical astrology. So if astrology is time, or if astrology is a ladder for us to climb, then when we get to Scorpio, it means that we have reached a very necessary rung. We can't skip steps. We can, but there are perhaps consequences or reactions, but we get to Scorpio season and we step on a rung, symbolically, metaphorically, spiritually, where we need to face ourselves. Scorpio, as a water sign that is ruled by Mars, it sort of forces us to look inward, to confront ourselves, to question ourselves, to hopefully reach to become a better version of ourselves. I've said this before in the past. Scorpio is the only sign of the zodiac that has three animals. It has the scorpion, it has the eagle, and in order to become the eagle, Scorpio has to become the phoenix. The phoenix is that middle point where we are able to transform ourselves so that we can rise to become the eagle. So I mention this, even if you're scratching your head, like, but I'm not a Scorpio, Katie. I get it, you're a Scorpio, but why should I pay attention? It's because it represents symbolically a step within your life, a step within your own personal progression. And the zodiac represents the cycle of life, and if I took it even more esoterically, the cycle of incarnations. We need to work to perfect each step. That's why we have Saturn, in order to climb higher, air quotes, higher and higher. So it's not an easy sign because it can confront us. It can make something, Scorpio is the unconscious. It's a lot of things. It's money, it's power, it's matter, the material world, but it's also the psyche. It's the unconscious, and it gets us to confront ourselves. So things may be bubbling up from deep within as we navigate, not just the Scorpio moon in a couple of days, but tomorrow, Mercury is going to go back to Scorpio. So Mercury has been retrograde since, I think it's the 4th. Is that even correct? Not the 4th of November. Mercury turned retrograde on the 9th. And Mercury is resurfacing a part of the sky that it was in beginning of November, but also the last couple of weeks of October. We are, as much as a new moon is about new beginnings, Mercury retrograde also says that we have something that we need to clear up. And so as things bubble up from within, or we begin to see something that has been perhaps veiled from ourselves, meaning we have veiled it from ourselves, we don't want to see it, but now we are seeing it, or maybe something has been hidden from us, or maybe it's necessary information. This new moon is really bringing up something that needs to be resolved. Curiously, this new moon, it says that over the next 4 weeks, because that's the duration of a lunar month, that we will have a period where we're working within this container of Scorpio energy. When I try to at least make Scorpio more grounded, I say if you've been to therapy, you've been to Scorpio. If you've ever looked deep within and questioned yourselves, questioned your motives, and reached for, let's say, the better version of yourself, you've been to Scorpio. But if you've also been in some really, let's say, not so great behavior on yourself, and you realize that maybe you were lashing out, you've also been to Scorpio. These are just different iterations of the same sign. So the new moon, this will be on the 20th of November. This will be at 1:48 a.m. Eastern time. It will be the 19th of November for those that are on the West Coast of the United States and Canada. It'll be at 28 degrees of Scorpio. And as I said earlier, it will be opposite Uranus. And that Mercury back in Scorpio will also be opposite Uranus. So this is a little bit of a spicy new moon. It really sets us up for a lot of question marks. I'm saying this as an astrologer, a lot of question marks for the next 4 weeks, because this new moon is playing off of a story that has been with us since 2018 and 2019, because those were the years that Uranus first went into Taurus. It was May 15th of 2018. It was March, I think it was 6, 2019. And a story began, and it's not dramatic for everybody, but at least we can say collectively, the world is not as it was in 2018 or 2019. Whatever is coming up with this opposition to Uranus, with the new moon this week, it's a culmination of something that's already been with us for the last 6 and 7 years. It is the end of the story. It is not the beginning of the story. But it is something for us to really sit with, because, and I have a whole article on my website. It's called Uranus and Taurus, sign by sign. My website is empoweringastrology.com, and it will remind you what part of your life, what part of your astrology that Uranus entered in 2018 and 2019. So I'm a Scorpio. So Uranus entered into my relationship sign in 2018, 2019. It's not just relationships. I'm just using this as an example. It is a space that talks about how I relate, connect, socialize, and interact with people. That is the same if you're also a Scorpio, Scorpio rising. It might be a very different part of your own astrology depending on your sun and rising sign. So that is where a lot of the, let's say in the case of Scorpio, Scorpio rising, where the changes and transformation has been taking place over the last 7 years. And I know that some of you are my clients, so I've heard the stories from my Scorpio and Scorpio rising clients. So this new moon, it also has, as much as it has a lot of, let's say, spicy, transformative, dynamic energy, it also has a very beautiful grand water trine between the Sun, Moon, and Mercury in Scorpio. We also have Jupiter in Cancer, and we also have Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. So this is what's called a grand water trine. It means that we have these planets forming, in this case, an exact trine between all three water signs. It says that as much as there is some confrontational energy in this new moon, I gotta be honest, there's some confrontational energy with this new moon. It also is saying that there is an opportunity here for compassion, empathy, forgiveness. But more importantly, water is an element that helps us to move. I don't mean that physically, but we also, let's say in English, we have this phrase like, you need to move on, because that movement isn't physical, it's emotional. And so water helps to carry us from one phase and chapter to the next. It opens us up to new beginnings. It helps to create, of course, emotional bonds. It's feeling, it's empathy, it's compassion. But it's the element that comes before the fire. The element fire is the first element in the zodiac. And so the fire is the new beginning. And the water is preparing us for the new beginning. So I had my own experience with this energy. So this is why it's personally, I can dial into it and sort of be like, whoa, wow, this is some pretty spicy astrology. But I can see how something needed to come up from the unconscious so that something can move, that space can come into my own life, whether it's internal, whether it's spiritual, whether it's emotional. So I'm just sort of sharing that, although I realize that's really a surface share, so that you can begin to look at, let's say, anything that's going on in your life over the next 4 weeks from a very different lens, or even the things over the past couple of days. This new moon, it's not just Sun opposite Uranus, it's not just Mercury retrograde, it's not just the grand water trine. It is a new moon that has Mars, its ruler, square the nodes. So the energy of the new moon, 28 degrees of Scorpio, points over to Mars in Sagittarius. Mars will be at 11 degrees of Sagittarius, and specifically Mars will be square the lunar nodes in Pisces and Virgo. For me as an astrologer, that is a sort of piling it on in terms of what is shifting and transforming for us over the next 4 weeks. And if you've been around here long enough, you know that I really try to point out that 3 months after an eclipse, that 3 months before an eclipse period, because that's when sometimes we can see the eclipses of September come in. Interestingly, this new moon at 28 degrees of Scorpio, it kind of foretells or it connects in advance the solar eclipse to come on February 17th of 2026. That solar eclipse will be, I think it's at 28 degrees of Aquarius, and that solar eclipse will be square Uranus. So these new moons, although once a solar eclipse and it's 3 months from now, these new moons are connected. So we sort of need to watch what is coming up with this time and how it can maybe foreshadow or give some new information about this new eclipse cycle that's coming in, because we have our first eclipse in Aquarius coming in just in 3 months' time, which is kind of crazy to think that we are starting to look at eclipses in Aquarius and even in Leo in August of 2026. So I'm really jumping ahead. So this is a lot of things to unpack. This week, again, as I said earlier, we do have Mercury going back into Scorpio this week. That's kind of like the big elements with the new moon. So we're going to go through each of the 12 zodiac signs so we can see where this energy is unfolding. So let's start with Aries. Aries, so Mars is your planet, and as you've known since the 4th of November, Mars is moving through Sagittarius, so that brings the fire energy to your sign. It's the fire of faith, of truth, of meaning, of illumination, of travel, of convictions, really figuring out what you believe in and what you stand for. Maybe it's education. Maybe it's just a time that's really about philosophy. So that said, Mars is the new moon that we're going to have this week. It's in your 8th, but it is pointing over to that Mars in your 9th. So let's back up for a second. So this new moon is going to be in your 8th sign. So Scorpio season is the season for you to do your work, to do some emotional heavy lifting, to look within, to reach for anything that helps you to transform. And it's, I don't know how you feel about Scorpio season, but it's a real season to purge, to clear, to make space. Now, this new moon, it's playing off of the Uranus in Taurus. Uranus went into Taurus in 2018, 2019. It went to your second sign of money, income, material stability, and security. Maybe the last 6-7 years on some level have been a lot about money and material stability and security. It could also be that the last 6-7 years have really been about value. What's truly of value to you, Aries? This new moon opposite Uranus is bringing that to the forefront. You need to sort of figure out, what do you value? What do you want to invest your time and money in? What do you want to invest your life in? And what needs to change? What needs to move? The energy of the new moon is pointing over towards that Mars in your 9th. So this is also a new moon where you need to get very clear about what you believe in, what you stand for. Perhaps it's literally your faith. Maybe it's a little bit more philosophical. But the thing that I wanted to really highlight is because Mars is square the nodes, and it really echoes the solar eclipse that we had on September 21st, even that lunar eclipse that we had in Pisces on September 7th. Aries, you are in a period of endings. I know that's a big statement, but you've had Saturn in Pisces for almost 3 years. You're coming to the end of a great cycle. It's about things leaving and preparing for some new life that you got a glimpse of June, July, and August when Saturn was in Aries. This eclipse that we had just a few months ago is trying to create psychic space for you. It's trying to get things to move and to leave. And it's also a new moon that is putting bringing the energy of eclipses. And so this could be a pivotal time for you, and one that if things are pivotal or if things are moving, that you are able to really stand with your truth and your convictions, but also allow something to shift so that something new can come into your life. Taurus. Taurus. So Venus is your planet, and Venus right now it's in Scorpio. Trying to refresh my brain of where Venus is at the moment. It is 15 degrees of Scorpio. If you can see the moon in the sky right now, for me at least, the moon is below the horizon right now. You would see the moon and Venus very close together. So that will be a very beautiful sight for those as we get into moonrise, let's say early this coming morning. But anyway, so Venus is your planet. So this is the season, roughly, give or take, where the moon is in your seventh sign of relationships. The sun is also there. We are about to have a new moon in Scorpio, and it's saying that this is the period of the year where the focus is on other people, whether it is relationships, it's connections, how you connect and interact with people, and maybe even your intimate partnerships, if that's something that's relevant to your life. Taurus, and we've been talking about this about the last 6-7 years, because I've been doing this since 2019. You've had a visitor to your sign. It's been a pretty powerful visitor for you, because in 2018, 2019, May of 2018, March of 2019, Uranus went to Taurus. I know that not every Taurus or Taurus rising is the same person. You're all different people. You've lived this time differently. You've lived the energy of Uranus differently. I have seen the gamut at this point, but I know a lot of you, your lives are very different than they were in 2018, 2019. You have made great transformations. You have moved. You have transformed yourself. You look different. Maybe something hasn't so greatly shifted. Maybe it's been more internal, but this has been a time over the last 6-7 years where Taurus has needed to get out of its own way and has needed to reinvent itself. I want to mention that because this new moon plays off of that story that has been with you the last 6-7 years. However, that story is beginning to come to an end. It is a very interesting, maybe a better adjective, but a very interesting next 4 weeks for Taurus, where it's about you, it's about other people, it's about new beginnings, it's about transformation, it's about intimacy, trust, vulnerability, but it's also about looking deep within in order to make a change. The energy of your sign, it's more towards other people. Venus is in the sign that's opposite you. So it's about really learning to listen to the important people in your life, or listen to somebody else, and to try to figure out compromise and negotiation, but also being open to very different points of view, and perhaps even doing things very differently in your own life. It could be a very dynamic next 4 weeks for you, Taurus. Gemini. So Mercury is your planet. Mercury is on the move this week. It's going from Sag, which is your relationship sign, back to Scorpio, which is your sign of work, projects, health, wellness. It is the operation space for your life. Now, Mercury is joining up with the sun and the moon to be a part of this new moon on November 20th. It is a bit of a spicy new moon, this new moon that is about how you organize your life, how you show up, how you do the operations, where you put your energy. It could be health and wellness oriented. The opposition to Uranus is, at least over the last 6-7 years, has been in a very quiet place in your personal astrology. It's been in something called your 12th. The 12th is about our spirituality, our ability to open up and to go beyond this world. It's about trying to transcend our physical life, but not to leave it behind per se, but to really see our physical lives, our human lives, with a very higher perspective. It's our empathy, it's our compassion, it's our forgiveness. So this new moon is both about your physical life, but it's also about your spiritual life, and maybe needing to make some changes, some choices. Maybe there's some internal shifts that need to happen. This new moon points the energy of Mars over to your 7th of relationships. So there's something that's going on over the next 4 weeks that is about you and other people, or it's about how you connect, relate, and socialize with other people. Going back to your Mercury, it's because Mercury is retrograde. You need to go back to something in the past, make different decisions, see something from a different light. Uranus ultimately is breakthrough, but it's the light of consciousness. It is to really truly see something for what it is. That's the light bulb that goes off so that you can make a different decision, a different choice, and go in a different direction. Mercury is not going to go direct until the 29th of November, so you have time, but it really, even though this new moon isn't in your sign, it's like you're in the middle of it. Again, it's pointing over towards relationships. It's pointing towards the eclipses that we had back in September. We had a solar eclipse in your sign of home and family and living situation. We had that eclipse on September 7th about your career. So it is pulling upon those 2 points. Maybe you're feeling that your life is shifting and recalibrating and moving over the next 4 weeks, especially as we get into December. I'm jumping ahead because Mars will square Saturn. That's a big aspect. And especially the first 2 weeks of December, it's really picking up on the energy of the eclipse. So it's a big new moon for you, Scorpio. Not Scorpio, it's a big new moon for you, Gemini. And I think it's really asking that you clear things out, you put things in order, you let go of what needs to let go so that new things can come into your life. Cancer. So the moon is your planet, and the moon, as you know, we're about to have a new moon in Scorpio, and Scorpio for you is something called your 5th sign. The 5th sign is the sign of play, creativity, self-expression. It's a sign that helps you to get back in touch with the things that light you up and give you joy and give you passion. And so it's a bit of a spark for you this new moon because it's about you, like getting back to the things that light you up and give you joy. Now, here's the wild card with this new moon, because as I was saying in the introduction, this new moon opposes Uranus. Let's quickly go back to Uranus and Taurus. Uranus has been in Taurus for the better part of the last 6-7 years, and first went into Taurus in May of 2018 and March of 2019. And for you, that area is what's called your 11th. It is your friends, it is your community, it's your social circle, but it's also your consciousness of the world, humanity, social issues, social causes, the collective. And depending on, of course, each Cancer rising, you're different people, but there has been this sort of larger awakening over the last 6-7 years. So this new moon is on one hand about you, how you show up, how you express yourself, but it's also about community. It's also about friendship. It's also about the world and social issues, social causes, and it's maybe trying to find the balance between the part that's so familiar and individual and the part that's so much bigger than you. This new moon points over towards Mars in Sagittarius, so you have work to do over the next 4 weeks. As much as you have a vision for the future, a vision for your life and what you want to create in your life, Mars in Sagittarius is saying you need to take the steps to make it happen. It's a lot of do, go throughout November and into the beginning of December for you. Mars is also a career sign. Now keep that in mind, especially as we get into around the 9th of December, because Mars will be square Saturn, and you need to make some serious decisions or put things in order or take the next big step up in your life, to be more of an adult in whatever way that is relevant for your life. But you feel things. I mean, you're either a Cancer rising, you feel things. So this new moon is bringing up a lot for you to feel, and maybe on one hand it's very inspirational, but if it's bringing up a lot, just make sure you're giving it its grounding, and then maybe that's where Mars is over in Sagittarius, your 6, for the next 4 weeks, and it's saying really help to anchor yourself, give yourself practice, rituals, routines to really help ground this big energy that's coming into your astrology. Leo. Leo, so the sun is your planet. So this time each year, the sun goes through Scorpio, and Scorpio is the base and foundation of your astrology. So Scorpio holds up your astrology. And when the sun is down in this part of your astrology, it's typically a time to go within, to spend more time with family, things that are familiar, to tend to your roots, but also to put energy and time into things that actually support you and nourish you. A new moon in this part of your astrology, it says that over the next 4 weeks, family, your home environment, your living situation is your priority for the next 4 weeks. For some Leos, that's a move. For some Leos, if there's something that's going on within the home and the family that needs your attention. For some Leos, it's a little bit more abstract, and it's about really, making sure you're getting your deeper emotional needs met. The thing that's a wild card with this new moon, it really plays upon a story that has been with you since 2018, 2019. Now, this is something that we've been talking about for the last 6-7 years. You have had a visitor in your 10th sign since 2018, 2019 in English. And I realized that not every Leo has lived this so dramatically or has made a career change, but that's where a lot of this energy has played out since 2018, 2019, has been in your professional life. It's your professional life, your public life, public reputation, the title after your name, the role that you play in the world, your relationships with responsibility, your worldly ambitions. And maybe there's been a big shift over the last 6-7 years. So whatever is going on with this new moon, as much as it's about home and family, it's also about your public life, your professional life, and also your career, and maybe trying to find the balance between these two very big parts of your life, the part that holds you up and the part that actually is what you reach towards. This is shaking things up. It's whatever is coming up over the next 4 weeks on some level. It's like bringing a story, a 6-7 year story to a conclusion. So listen for it, feel for it, take what you need to take from this new moon, because it's trying to reveal something. And more importantly, because Scorpio is the base and foundation of your astrology, maybe it's stuff that's really unconscious. It could be stuff from a family, from childhood, ancestors. What needs to move, what needs to release in order for you to have that role or make that achievement that you want to make in your life. This new moon is bringing up a lot of deep water themes, feelings, emotions, again with the past and the memories and the family. So just think of it this way: is movement. For some of you, the next 4 weeks, you're literally moving. But I think on some deeper level, that movement wants to be emotional, it wants to be spiritual. So sit with what is moving, because whatever is moving, it's preparing you for a new chapter and phase in your life. Virgo, so Mercury is your planet, and Mercury, as you know, it's retrograde. It's actually making a move this week. It's going from Sagittarius to Scorpio on the 18th. I think that's today. Sorry, I usually do this on Mondays. Today is Tuesday. So Mercury going back to Scorpio, as you probably know, Virgo, you're in the midst of Mercury retrograde. It's nothing to worry about. Like, this is just your periodic reminder that Mercury retrograde, or any retrograde, is a natural time to go within, to look within, to question, to analyze, and to maybe start to see things differently, so you can make different choices when Mercury goes direct. Mercury going back into Scorpio, it first of all gets out of that kind of awkward conjunction to Mars that I think was bringing up a lot of things the past couple of weeks. More importantly, it goes into what's called your third sign. voice, communication, how you think and listen and learn, and even the choices that you make. Now, Mercury is saying there's something you need to wrap up. If it's a choice to be made, you really need to sit and reflect and sort of question if that's the choice that you want to make, or it's to see your choices from a different perspective. If it is to use your voice, it is to not use your voice instinctively, it's to use your voice intuitively or even reflectively. A new moon in your third sign that says over the next 4 weeks, education, travel, communication, exchanges, information is going to be your 4-week priority. Maybe it's a lot of movement, a lot of travel over the next 4 weeks. Maybe it's a very busy or chatty time. But again, with Mercury retrograde, there's something that you need to go back to. Mercury is retrograde in Scorpio, which is kind of a really interesting place for Mercury to be, because it's a space where Mercury wants to uncover information. Mercury in Scorpio is the detective. It is the researcher. These are roles that Mercury in Scorpio plays very well. It has a very sharp mind and sometimes a very sharp voice and sharp words. But this is where, with the retrograde, something needs to be uncovered, or perhaps something will be uncovered. This new moon plays off of a bigger story since 2018-2019 that has been happening in what's called your ninth. You've had Uranus and Taurus over that period of time, and so this has been a 6-7 year period that's been trying to illuminate your world, get you to see things differently, open up your philosophy, expand the role of education, or even travel in your life. And maybe what you believe in, what you stand for, is not what you believed and stood for back in 2018 and 2019. So this opposition that's between this new moon and Uranus, it's very information focused, and that's where things might be shaking up or shifting this week between that opposition. The energy of the new moon is pointing towards that Mars and Sagittarius, so it's bringing in something about family, home, past memories, maybe your living situation, maybe your household. It's not going to be the case for everybody, but whatever is coming up, it's also bringing up some deep emotions. So sit with what's coming up, because ultimately, I said this to Gemini and I'll say it to you, you got some big astrology going on in your astrology at the moment. And, this new moon in a way is a layup to Mars's square to Saturn on December 9th, and the square to lunar nodes, and the energies of the eclipses from September coming to the forefront. So what I'm trying to say is that the end of November and the last 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of December are probably going to be a time of shifts and pivotal times for you. Pivotal times mean there could be events, but these are events that are really shifting the narrative, because that's the thing about eclipses. Even though the eclipses were 2-3 months ago, they can come forward with very specific configurations of the astrology, and that's where you see the shift and the change. So it's a big time, Virgo. Libra, so Venus is your planet, and Venus, as you may or may not know, it's presently in Scorpio. It'll be in Scorpio, I think, for another week or so. And so the energy of your sign is pointing over towards your second sign of money, income, material stability, and security. It means that maybe you're more focused or more conscious about spending, or what you have, or maybe even what you don't have. Maybe it's a little philosophical in nature. You're thinking about what do you truly value, what's truly important, and maybe it's even self-worth in nature. Libra, this new moon, it's not necessarily hitting on the big points like it is for some of the other signs, but it is bringing up potentially a lot of deep emotional material. The energy of the new moon does point towards Mars and Sagittarius. Mars is a relationship planet. Mars is a money and value planet. And maybe there's something where the the choices and sort of the reflections and the questions about value could be either about the people in your life, the types of relationships that you are engaging in or fostering in, or maybe even needing to make a decision about a relationship or somebody that is in your life. That said, for some Libras, this is a very financially focused new moon. And even a period that takes you over the next 4 weeks. The thing that's kind of a question mark for me as an astrologer is, and this goes back to, since 2018, 2019, is that Libra, you have had Uranus and Taurus, your 8th sign. The work of the 8th is always deeply unique to the individual. It is a reflection of your evolution. It's a reflection of your soul's evolution. So the experiences, the inner work, and the transformation that you've done over the last 6-7 years, I hope, has been something that's been very specific and unique to your journey. Uranus in your 8th, the 8th on some level is the unconscious, the things that we can't see, and sometimes the things that we don't want to see. And Uranus is the light in the dark. It's the energy of Prometheus. So this eclipse, this new moon is trying to light a spark in the dark, trying to show you something that maybe you haven't seen. And maybe that's the awareness or the consciousness that helps you to have a shift of values over the next 4 weeks and maybe to make different choices. That said, there you go. Scorpio. Happy birthday, Scorpio. Maybe you're like me. My birthday was yesterday, the 17th, so we are at the end of Scorpio. If your birthday is on the 20th, plus or minus a couple of days, the coming year is going to be a time of powerful new beginnings. Typically, that is the conventional wisdom, especially if your birthday is on the new moon. So for most of the world, that is the 20th of November. I have to sort of paint a bigger picture for Scorpio because this new moon, number one, this new moon is opposite Uranus and Taurus. And this is where I need to sort of paint the bigger picture, because since 2018 and 2019, May 2018, March 2019, Uranus has been in Taurus, except for a few months this year. And this has been a very dynamic, sometimes challenging, transformative, upending time for Scorpio. And I know that that's a broad statement, and I realize we're all different people. But here's the thing, Scorpio, and again, check in with your life. Like, how has the last 6-7 years been for you? Are you the same person? Are you in the same place? Is I know my life, and I'm not, of course, the metric for everybody, but my life is radically different than it was in 2018, 2019. I mean, even internally, radically different than it was in 2018, 2019. So I wanted to say that because Uranus is in its last few months. I think it's the last 5 months of its time in Taurus. So whatever is happening around this new moon, even if it's your birthday, if it's not your birthday, it's fine, but it's the end of a story. It's not the beginning of a story. That beginning of the story was 5, 6, 7 years ago, but we're at the end of the story. So what is coming to a resolution, or that sort of final sense of discovery or illumination, because it's a pretty strong lineup of planets that's with you over the next four weeks, and one where it's highlighting that a lot of the energy of transformation has been happening through the realm of relationship, whether that's literally changing how you connect with intimate partnership, or changing how you connect, relate, and socialize with people. Of course, that's not going to be for every Scorpio, but that's where a lot of this energy has played out, and where the Uranus opposition, especially for my Scorpio suns, where you have really felt the demand of the past few years to change, to transform. But my joke with Scorpio is that Scorpio, even though it's the sign of transformation, it will transform when it's, good and ready. So it's a spicy new moon, and one that may be highlighting something that you need to go back to with the Mercury retrograde, to see things from a different perspective, to research something, to allow something from the unconscious to reveal itself. And maybe this is helping you to bring this whole Uranus in Taurus chapter almost to a close. The energy of the new moon points towards Mars and Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a money sign, so as much as this new moon is about new beginnings, it could be a new moon that talks about money and spending and investments and resources, but also value and worth, and maybe even your own value and worth. Wait, I want to add something to Scorpio. So we are experiencing what's called a grand water trine. Everybody's experiencing a grand water trine, but if more specifically, this new moon does pick up on the trine to Saturn in Pisces, Neptune Pisces, Jupiter in Cancer. So whatever is shifting, shaking up, there is this grand water trine. These all the water signs are being activated in what's called a grand water trine, and it's giving you the opportunity to really either let something go, to have a great internal movement, to make more space within yourself, to open your heart. I know Scorpio, yes, Scorpio, open your heart. And maybe that's the most radical thing that can happen. Sagittarius. Sagittarius, so Jupiter is your planet. And, you've been hearing me say over the last few months, Jupiter's your planet, Jupiter's in Cancer, it'll be in Cancer until I think it's July or end of June of 2026. And Cancer is a water sign, so it's kind of a funny place for the energy of your sign to be pointing towards. But I said this in the introduction, although from a different perspective. The zodiac is a ladder. It's a ladder that we all need to climb and work to find our way through each rung of the ladder. And even though Cancer is not a sign on paper that we would be like, that's Cancer's home and family. Sag wants to be on a plane someplace else. I now realize that's a great simplification, but this has been a time where Sagittarius has needed to open up, to spend more time with family, to get into the emotional heart of things. And I've been saying this for past few months for a while. There's just a lot of big astrology going on with Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, because you have Saturn in your fourth of home and family. It's been a big chapter about potential moves and needing to focus on family, maybe starting a family, maybe getting married, maybe needing to go back to matters involving the past and parents. But it's also been a time of eclipses, and even though we had those eclipses back in September 7th and 21st, they are still with us. So this new moon, it's not an eclipse, but in a way it begins to echo the seeds of new beginnings and change that were planted with the eclipses back in September. For you, Scorpio is something called your 12th sign. It is the end of your personal astrology, the culmination of a journey. It's your spirituality, it's your intuition. And so with this grand water trine that's happening between Jupiter, the sun, this new moon in Scorpio, the sun and the moon and Mercury in your 12th, but also Saturn and Neptune in your 4th, there is some sort of internal shift, spiritual shift, psychic shift, intuitive shift that's trying to happen very quiet, very subtly, because that's the thing about water and even grand water trines. It's very subtle energy. The new moon is not subtle. It makes an opposition to Uranus. For you, this new moon is focused not just on your 12th, but Uranus and Taurus. Your Uranus has been in your 6th sign of health and wellness, your relationship with your body, your physical fitness, how you take care of your body, your work, your projects, since 2018 and 2019. And maybe that part of your life may look nothing like it did in 2018 and 2019. So is there some sort of shift in movement? Maybe it's helping you to have a different relationship with your health and wellness. Or maybe it's getting you to feel a very different way of grounding yourself and being here on planet Earth, or even to engage in ritual and craft and practice. So it's a new moon that is bridging both heaven and earth, but ironically, because the energy is Mars, it's pointing over towards Mars and Sagittarius. So there is some sort of new beginning that's happening with this new moon period that's taking us over the next 4 weeks, but that new moon is also wrapped up in endings. So maybe you're feeling like you're straddling two different worlds. Mars and Sagittarius is like, I want to take action. I want to move forward. I'm ready to go. But the new moon, especially with Mercury retrograde, that new moon is saying, but you also need to wrap something up. You need to let something go, release, and let it have its ending because it's time. It's activating those bigger configurations in your astrology, again, the energy that takes you back to those eclipses in September. So I would really sort of look at the next 4 weeks and sort of feel into what this astrology is presenting to you. Because again, it is about endings, but it's also about action and really trying to navigate between two very different worlds or two very different chapters of your life. And also maybe this energy of, something is trying to really get you to see something very differently. That's the opposition to Uranus. And Mercury, it is a relationship planet. It is a career planet. So it's a very powerful planet that's currently retrograde in your 12th. So whatever comes up, even if it's like, where the hell did this come from? Or information or a realization that sort of comes out of the blue, don't dismiss it. It's really important, and it's helping you to open up this grand water trine so that something again can move, and there can be new life in your life. Capricorn. So Saturn is your planet. So Saturn, as you know, is in the last couple of months of its time in Pisces, not to return for another 30 years. Yes, you heard me correctly. So just for you to remember Sagittarius, Capricorn, is that you're in a time of really wrapping up some chapter of your life. This is a chapter that began in March of 2023 and is preparing you for a bigger chapter to come when Saturn gets back into Aries on February 13th of 2026. So before that happens, we do have this new moon. It's in your 11th. The 11th, there's 12 domains within our personal astrology. The 11th is a place that talks about our friends, our social circle, our sense of community. It can even get to bigger topics like social issues, social causes, our ability to look beyond ourselves and into the world, and even to look towards the future and towards like sort of the bigger picture, like what is our place in the world. So on one level, this new moon could be very nuts and bolts in the sense it's about the people in your life, the friends in the community that you have. The new moon is opposite Uranus. Now, Uranus has been in your 5th sign of self-expression, identity since 2018, 2019. Every Capricorn or even Capricorn rising is different, but there has been some sort of narrative over the last 5, 6, 7 years where you have needed to either awaken or open up to who you truly are. Capricorn is typically a sign that is like, let's do it. I'm an earth sign. I'm trying to work on my 5-year plan. I realize that's not true for every Capricorn or Capricorn rising, but Earth is the least flexible of all the elements. And Uranus's job is to get you out of your own way. So there is something that wants to shake up or shift or get you out of a rut or get you to see yourself differently, that on some level has an impact with your friendships, your communities, or even how you see yourself in the world. The energy of this new moon is pointing towards Mars in your 12th. Of Mars and Sagittarius in your 12th. So there is something that through this new moon, with its very strong opposition to Uranus, is trying to get something to come to an end, to release something, to make space for something new to come into your life. And for some, it's not just to release or for something to come to an end. It's also to connect with your spirituality, to go beyond the self and even to go beyond the ego and open up to your highest possible self. This new moon, it is connecting us to a new moon to come. It's gonna be a solar eclipse on February 17th, and that for you is in 2026 and 7, and even into the beginning of 8. You will have eclipses that will start to activate Pluto in Aquarius. So I'm sort of jumping ahead, but this new moon, it's foreshadowing sort of a bigger topic about what do you value, what's important, where you're putting your money, where you're putting your investments. I don't mean literally, but what are you truly valuing in your life? Because maybe these sort of shifts and shakeups are what's preparing you for a bigger shift to come. Aquarius. Aquarius, so Saturn is your planet, and we are in the last couple of months of Saturn and Pisces. It's kind of wild to think that it's been almost 3 years at this point. So, as you know, at this point, your planet Saturn went into Pisces in March of 2023. So your life, Aquarius, it's pretty much is in these 2.5, 3 year chunks. And when Saturn finally leaves Pisces on February 13th of 2026, that is a chapter that you have wrapped up that you won't repeat for another 30 years, because your sign ruled by Saturn has a very different time scale than the other signs. And I use this analogy in the introduction. I think it's a good time to revisit it. The zodiac, it's a ladder. And so even though you work on a different time scale than the other signs, it's like the last 2.5, almost 3 years have been a time to really find your footing, like, with Saturn in the sign of Pisces. So in the sign for you, that's about money, income, material stability, and security. So it is a space where you've had to really work, you've had to really transform, you've had to do some heavy lifting, you've had to learn some lessons in a space that's very material. It's very much about your physical life. Maybe it's been the physicality of money, material resources, but maybe it's even been the emotionality, or because it's Pisces, or even the philosophy behind what are you investing in? What are you spending your money in? Like, how are you earning a living? This new moon is kind of a big new moon for you. It is in your 10th sign of career, the title after your name, the role that you play in this world. And so on some very basic level, the next 4 weeks are about your professional life. It's a time for you to get noticed for something. It's a time to make a career change. It's a time when things are happening in your public life. But then there's this new moon that's opposite Uranus. And this has been the case with all of the fixed signs over the last 5-6 years. Like, my joke about the fixed signs over the last, since 2018, 2019, is that the fixed signs haven't been so fixed. We need fixed energy because fixed energy creates reliability. It creates stability. It creates like a sense of like, oh, I can relax because I know that life is, not flying off the handle. But that's the thing about, even though Aquarius is an air sign and it can typically have a bigger vision and sort of go with things, it's still a fixed sign. And Uranus has been in your fourth sign of home and family since May 2018 and March of 2019. It is possible that the concept of family, or your living situation, or family as your actual family, like that area doesn't look anything like it did in 2018 and 2019. Whatever is happening over the next 4 weeks echoes back to a story that has already, you've already worked through that story the last 6-7 years, but it also represents something that really it's starting to come to an end. The changes around family, the shifts, the internal, the emotional, and perhaps even the spiritual shifts that have needed to happen. And this new moon, it directly connects to the lunar eclipse to come on February 17th. And that lunar eclipse will be at 28 degrees of Aquarius. So Aquarius, you go into 2026 and even 7, but we'll focus on 6, where you're going to have eclipses in Aquarius. And that says that you're sort of on the cusp of some pretty powerful new beginnings. So take note of whatever's happening over the next 4 weeks, because it might be foreshadowing or presaging what's coming up in your life in February. February is also the month that Saturn goes into Aries. So that's another shift for you. So it's another big month for you. That said, this new moon, Mars is the ruler of this new moon. It points towards the future, towards your friends, your community, social issues, social causes. And it's picking up on, like, I think the bigger value shift that's happening. So I think this new moon, I feel that this new moon is trying to get you to be in the world differently on some level, and to make sure that however you're showing up in the world, it actually matches your values and what you want to build your life upon. Pisces. Pisces. So Jupiter is your planet, and Jupiter, it's making a very beautiful grand water trine to Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, the Sun, the Moon, and Mercury this week. And this even takes you into the beginning of December. I wanted to say that because it really gives us, the grand water trine. It's not to say that, overpromise things, but it can be a magical energy for some signs. And I would even say, for the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and of course you Pisces. This magical energy, it's very open-hearted. And I've said this in previous videos, it's just been a really, kind of a heavy road for Pisces the past couple of years, ever since Saturn went into Pisces in March of 2023. Maybe we need that invisible sense of security, that sort of invisible divine hand that maybe makes us feel that everything, after all, is going to work out. Open to the grand water trine. It wants to create some sort of movement in your life. It could be an internal movement, an emotional movement, a spiritual movement, perhaps even a literal movement. You've had a lot of responsibilities and a lot of things that you have been carrying over the past couple of years, again, with Saturn and Pisces. Maybe you feel a sense of support, Jupiter trine Saturn. Maybe it's about opening up your faith, your sense of the world. You will have this Scorpio new moon in something called your ninth sign. The ninth sign is both this place where we need to take what we have been through and develop a sense of vision, opening up to the world. It's our faith, it's our truth, that's our meaning, it's our philosophy, it's our sense of conviction. And so this is a new moon that on some level that is trying to open up your eyes. It's trying to make your world bigger. It's trying to get you to reach towards the stars, or to reach towards the things that light you up and maybe make you wonder and make you question. And maybe even this is a month where you're asking big questions, and maybe there's a deeper sense of that, again, maybe it's all going to work out, or maybe you receive intuitively some sort of inner knowing that helps you to find a greater sense of peace, maybe even a greater sense of purpose. This new moon, again, it's in your ninth. The ninth is both education, it's travel, it's philosophy, but it is making an opposition to Uranus and Mercury, which is in your ninth, which is in a space that's talking about like really sharing your vision or sharing your point of view. Uranus is kind of a confrontational energy. It's in your third. It's about information, ideas, choices, options. And so maybe on one hand, it's about opening up to a new perspective, because maybe you thought you believed a certain thing, or you really saw the world a certain way, or you saw your life a certain way. But Uranus is the wild card. It's trying to get you to see things differently, to make different choices, to consider different options. It could be that information comes to light that sort of changes the way that you see things, or maybe it's not that. Maybe you're trying to share your voice, to open up your voice so that you can speak about something or share something. Maybe it's travel. Maybe you're looking to travel into places that are really trying to expand your horizons. But I think on some level, I feel on some level that this energy, as much as that Scorpio new moon is kind of a wild card, I think the stability of, Jupiter trine Saturn and trine the new moon is saying that really to be open to things that want to come into your life or support from other people, because it's there. It's not a given. The trine is never given to us, but it's like we need to be open to it in order to be able to take it. So that is your look at the astrology of this week, November 17th through November 23rd. Sorry, yesterday was my birthday, so my brain is still in birthday mode, but I know I'm doing this on a Tuesday just to get it out there. So I appreciate you all. I hope you all have a great week, a great new moon, and we will continue to unpack it next week. Take care. Bye-bye.